So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Apprentice Insights webinar. My name is Michael McHugh. I'm the Quality Delivery Manager for Work-Based Learning at Skills Development Scotland, and I'll be hosting the session this afternoon. This webinar is being delivered as part of Scottish Apprenticeship Week 2026, and we've got an excellent list of presenters lined up for you this afternoon. I'm delighted to be joined by Denis Donoghue, who is an Evaluation and Research Executive at Skills Development Scotland. And I'm also delighted to be joined by Alice Fairbairn, who is a fitting crafts person at Scottish Power Energy Networks and who recently completed her craft modern apprenticeship. And we're also joined by Amy Dixon, who is the Workforce Programme Leader at Scottish Power Energy Networks. And finally, delighted to be joined by Caroline Hogg, who's the Head of Apprenticeships at Forth Valley College. So thanks very much to our panel for joining us today. We are recording the webinar and a link will be made available after the event has ended to watch again on demand. And I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank our two British Sign Language interpreters, Leah and David, who will be signing the session for us today. If anyone on the call needs BSL support, you can pin Leah and David on your own device and you'll always have them there. This webinar is designed to support professionals working with young people on career decisions, offering valuable insight, up-to-date information and real-life experiences from those directly involved in apprenticeships. The session will hopefully help you understand your service offer and deepen your understanding of apprenticeship pathways. So in terms of the agenda today, we're going to split the session into two parts. Firstly, we'll hear about the insights gathered through our Apprentice Voice survey work. And secondly, we'll have a panel discussion with Alice, Amy and Caroline on various aspects of the Modern Apprenticeship Programme. Please use the chat functionality to put in any comments, observations or questions, and we'll address as many of those as we can throughout the call. So without further ado, I'm delighted to introduce my colleague Denis Donoghue from our Evaluation and Research team at SDS, who will take us through this first part of the session. Thanks, and over to you, Denis.
Thanks, Michael. Good afternoon, everyone. As Michael said, I work for Evaluation Research at SDS. I'm going to talk you through mainly some of the findings from our Apprentice Voice survey project. And also a few of the other surveys that we do that gather some of the information from young people and parents and carers. So what I'm going to cover is just a little bit about our approach to gathering insights. I'll then look at some of the issues around who and what influences young people who choose apprenticeships. And then what motivates young people, what their key kind of drivers are for taking an apprenticeship. Then a little bit about what they think about their experience and how they rate it, and how that then impacts on their overall career. Just firstly, just a little bit about our research programs. So we gather feedback from a range of different customer groups. We have a Pupils Voice survey, which covers senior phase young people, S4 to S6. We get about 11,000 responses from that in 2025. We also have a school leaver survey, which is called Young People's Careers Ambitions, which looks at some of the kind of influences and drivers as people transition out of school. We have a parents and carers survey called Parents and Carers Voice. Again, it's got almost 5,000 responses, just to find a little bit about how parents and carers engage with the young people's careers. And finally, Apprentice Voice, which I'm mainly going to focus on today. And in 2025, we had nearly 12,000 responses from Apprentice Voice. And since we launched it in 2022, we've had 50,000 responses. And as it says there, Apprentice Voice is really a one-of-a-kind kind of suite of surveys. It gathers feedback at 3 stages in apprentice's journey. Just shortly after they start, 6 months into their apprenticeship, then 3 months after they finish, and then there's a short-term outcome survey again, 15 months after they've completed. And it certainly provides the most comprehensive picture of apprentice experiences and journeys anywhere in the UK. Just a little bit about some of the kind of key features of Apprentice Voice. It's designed really so that we put the apprentice voice at the heart of decision making. So the feedback that we get feeds directly back to those who support training providers and support delivery and systems around apprenticeships, Michael's team included, so that all the evidence in real time feeds right back to key decisions. It's very inclusive as well. Surveys go out to every single apprentice that's registered on our system. So everybody has the opportunity to contribute. We monitor responses by a quality group to ensure it's inclusive, and we reweight responses so that they represent or reflect a representative sample of all apprentices. So that what this information does, it allows us to track individuals over time, over the 3 stages, over the years. It's a consistent approach, gathers broadly the same information. It allows us to break down and look at detailed information over time and generate what we call actionable insights. So things that we can respond to. We can do deep dives, we can follow up and do more in-depth research with particular groups as issues emerge. Just going on to the next part of the presentation, just a little bit about the key influencers that young people identify. These figures here are from our young people's research. So we asked young people what influences them in their career decisions. And not surprisingly, the kind of main influencer is parents and carers. See, 84% of senior phase pupils identify them, followed by other key individuals, teachers, careers advisors, friends, and family members. School leavers show a similar picture, although those numbers drop a little bit as other kind of sources of information perhaps become more available, things like colleges and employers. Then looking specifically from our apprentice voice findings over the last 4 years, where apprentices say that they got their information about starting their apprenticeship. Again, the most significant influencer is parents and carers. It was more than a quarter identify that as the key source. But other key individuals are employers, friends, careers advisors, as well as college and learning providers and teachers. You can see there the 4th set of columns, careers advisors have become more important, particularly in the last 3 years, gone up from 10% to 14% of apprentices identifying them, which is obviously a good sign. If we just look a little bit about the gender breakdown of these figures, you can see there that, sorry, this is online sources. So we're looking at websites and social media broken down by gender. You can see that websites are still an important source. There's still just under a quarter of individuals identified that they found information about their apprenticeship on a website. Seems to be a little bit higher for males than females. And if we look on the right-hand side around social media, it's the opposite, that it's more important for females than males in terms of social media, and it's stayed roughly the same at about 10% for males, 15% for females, since we've introduced the monitoring. We also wanted to look at the breakdown by disadvantaged groups. So the Scottish Government uses a measure called SIMD, which categorises areas by how deprived they are. So this compares the most deprived in the red colour with the least deprived. It's interesting here that those living in the most deprived areas are less likely to have been influenced by individuals. And you can see there that the websites actually become the biggest source of information among that group at 26%. And it's much smaller among the other kind of face-to-face influencers. And social media is also slightly higher among this group. We also ask people in our surveys just shortly after they've started what the key motivations are for them starting a modern apprenticeship. The biggest two have stayed pretty much the same since we implemented Apprentice Voice, and those are learning new skills and earning while learning. But you can see there the second group to earning while learning, there's been a big jump in 2025 from 50% to 54%, which may well be due to the kind of increased prominence of cost of living issues, making obviously apprenticeships and the ability to earn and not kind of get into debt while learning much more important to young people. Another one that's gone up over the period that we've been monitoring is building confidence, which has gone up from 32% up to 36% of young people responding. If we just look at some of the gender breakdowns of the motivations, the top two choices of earning while learning and learning important new skills are both a little bit higher or a good bit higher among females than males. And among males, opportunity for advancement is much higher, and the apprenticeship qualification level is more important in motivating males. And on the flip side, you can see building confidence is much more important to female apprentices. So nearly half identify that as a motivating factor. And just looking at that broken down in terms of the disadvantaged groups, again, earning while learning is important to both groups, not much difference there, but learning important new skills and building confidence are both significantly higher among those living in the most deprived parts of Scotland. Moving on just to talk about some of the experiences. We have an open-ended question in the Apprentice Voice in Training survey that asks young people what they valued most about their modern apprenticeship. And we've used AI to generate the kind of top categories here. And not surprisingly, it's quite similar to what we've covered in terms of motivation. So learning new skills is clearly important. But career progression and opportunities to advance are also identified. And one of the key things that comes out from those open-ended responses is the importance of people and the support that they get from assessors, tutors, and mentors in the workplace. Obviously, earning while learning is key as well, and it comes out quite strongly. And the ability to learn on the job. Looking at some of the outcomes, so we monitor things like satisfaction and whether young people are likely to recommend the apprenticeships. And we've broken this down again by some of the kind of key characteristics. So overall, modern apprenticeships continue to be rated very highly. So on a scale of 1 to 10, the average rating of those who started as a young person under 20 is 8.5 out of 10. And you can see there those from most deprived areas at 8.6 and females at 8.9 are actually higher than the overall average, which is obviously a good sign. In terms of the actual outcomes, once young people complete their apprenticeships, you can see here the outcomes 3 months after finishing. The vast majority are in either employment or further training. Females are more likely to go into part-time employment. You can see there 11%, but also more likely to go into another modern apprenticeship, 3% for females compared to 1% for males. So males are more likely to go into full-time employment and also more likely to go into self-employment, again at 3%. These are things that reflect the wider labour market. Just moving on, another thing that we monitor post-completion is whether modern apprentices stay with the same employer that they carried out their apprenticeship with. And these figures compare 2025 findings with 2024 findings. And you can see here that the overall proportion is up from 81% to 88%. So more young people are being retained with their employer that they did their apprenticeship with. And the the levels are quite similar for those from the most deprived and least deprived communities, 87 and 88%. So that gap is closed. You can see in 2024 it was 76 and 82. So that's another sign that a positive sign that that gap has been closed. In terms of gender breakdown, males are more likely to be staying with the same employer than females at 91% for males and 81% for females, although it's high for both groups. We also ask about whether the apprentices are working in the same sector that they completed their ME in. And overall, this is very high at 95%. And again, it's higher for those from more, excuse me, more deprived areas than it is for those who are from less deprived areas, although there's not much of a difference. And again, it's quite similar for both males and females, at 94% for females and 96%. And again, an improvement on the 2024 figures. So just finally, to sum up some of the key messages that we found from the apprenticeship voice surveys in 2025. As I mentioned at the outset, we've now gathered more than 50,000 responses since the survey started in 2022, giving us unparalleled levels of insight. It's important to recognise that people in relationships are still important and are becoming more important in terms of helping people to choose an apprenticeship. But equally, online information sources are still important. Still more than a quarter of people get information online for starting their apprenticeship, and that's particularly so for those from more deprived communities. The two biggest drivers for starting an apprenticeship are learning important new skills and the ability to earn while learning. Although males are also motivated more by career advancement and females more by building confidence. Satisfaction rates are extremely high and stay extremely high, and again, particularly so for females and those from deprived communities. And also retention and employment levels are very high, very positive messages to promote about apprenticeships. Almost all apprentices are either still working or in further education, training, or another apprenticeship. So that's a run through of the key findings from the Apprentice Voice 2025. If you have any questions, please feel free to add them into the chat if you've not already done so, and we can do our best to address them. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Dennis. That was great, really insightful, as always. So great to see some improvement, I guess, in some of the measures from 2024 to 2025 is really positive too. I've put in the chat for folks a link just to where all the Apprentice Voice information is published on the website, so you can follow that link. We do have one question so far, Dennis, from Kiva Walsh, which is, do you gather any insights into safeguarding young workers or apprentices, or how to support their well-being?
We do have a set of questions about well-being. That's really the kind of, I think they're kind of a standard set of questions from, I think, the NHS that measure well-being. And we have compared these with the wider population, which show that they're quite similar. If there are any specific concerns, we have got some flags in the survey around if people are, for example, highlighting bullying, or if they're not getting support when they think they should be getting support. There is a flag that directs them or directs us to highlight this with the teams involved.
That's great. Thanks, Dennis. And I wonder, is there any further sort of deep dive research that the team plan to do? Is there anything around, like, do you publish anything around, regional specific data or sector specific data? What's the future plans for Apprentice Voice survey work?
people might be aware, we're doing a lot of work around Workforce North at the moment. So in terms of regions, we're certainly looking at using apprentice voice data to give us some insights into the workforce in the Highlands and Islands to try and see how it matches up with the huge number of opportunities that are coming on stream, particularly with renewable energy and related projects. But also other sectors that are needed to support that, like health and social care and kind of other related sectors. Other deep dives we're doing, we always do a lot of research around different equality groups. That's something that's ongoing. We're looking at the pathways for foundation apprentices, so those who are doing foundation apprenticeships in school and what kind of outcomes they have compared to the wider population. But those are just some that we're currently doing, but there's a number of others that are in the pipeline as well.
Great, thanks. And just to confirm again, Dennis, I think so we've published the 2025 infographics and so on this week just to line up with Scottish Apprenticeship Week, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. We do a number of sectoral breakdowns based on groupings of frameworks that show some of the key findings in infographic format. We also have breakdowns for the main equality groups and also for local authorities where the numbers allow.
That's great. So listen, thanks very much, Dennis, for that. No other questions in the chat. If anyone's got anything else, even if there's stuff that pops in over the next, 10, 15 minutes on the call, feel free to just post in the chat. Dennis will still be around and part of the panel so we can field further questions. So thanks very much, Dennis, for that really, really insightful presentation. So we'll move on now to our panel discussion section of the call. So again, I'll just welcome everyone. We're delighted to be joined by Alice Fairbairn, who's currently a fitting crafts person at Scottish Power Energy Networks. And Alice recently completed her modern apprenticeship. It was actually in craft. We've got that wrong in the slide. We said power distribution, but it was in craft. Also delighted to be joined by Amy Dixon, who's the Workforce Programme Leader at Scottish Power Energy Networks, and Caroline Hogg, who's the Head of Apprenticeships at Forth Valley College. So Alice, can you hear us okay, yeah?
Yeah, hear you all good.
That's great, thank you. So listen, Alice, we'll come to you first, and I guess, we've got almost 100 people on the call today, and a lot of the folks in the call will be either from our careers information and guidance service team part of the business, and there'll also be some external people on the call, a range of different people, but there'll be a lot of folks that are involved in, career choices, influencing young people, those kinds of things. So I guess the first sort of topic we want to talk about is just that initial choice to actually do an apprenticeship. So I think everybody would be really interested to understand what was your journey there. So for example, if you can think back to maybe like when you were in S3 in school, you're choosing subjects, you're thinking about future career, life beyond school. How did you find out about modern apprenticeships, and what was it that led you to choose to do an apprenticeship after school?
Well, I found out about modern apprenticeships through a careers advisor, and it was kind of something that drew my attention more because I wasn't really interested in going to university. But when I left school, I didn't actually go straight into a modern apprenticeship. I went into a sponsored cadetship in the Merchant Navy. And then it was when I came out of the Merchant Navy after 3 years of completing that course, I then seen the modern apprenticeship advertised for Scottish Power. And it drew my attention. So because I had kind of done something similar, I kind of went down that route again because I know how successful it was and the benefits of being an apprentice.
Yeah, that's great, really interesting. And how long were you studying then? How long did it take you to complete your apprenticeship?
3 years.
3 years, okay, right, that's really good. So, and then if you can think back to sort of once when you're heading towards the end of your apprenticeship, we know that you're still with Scottish Power Energy Network. So was that an easy decision to stay on with them? And was it obvious that there was a sort of career path there for you beyond the apprenticeship?
Yeah. As soon as I joined Scottish Power, there was a career path kind of planned out almost. They have a great, I don't know what the word is for it, sorry. They've got like a great kind of idea of having people join in as apprentices and work through the company and as progression, really. A
Yeah.
lot of our managers and our district managers that are in quite high up positions have been where they have been apprentices before, so the advice and the understanding and everything is amazing. And to see that, and then to work the first day in the job, I fell in love with it and knew that I was gonna stick to it. So
That's really good. That's good. That sounds really positive, positive experience through the apprenticeship and then staying
yeah,
on beyond that. That's really good. So,
yeah,
um, Amy, we'll come back. We'll touch on that sort of talent pipeline thing like a little bit later on. So maybe Caroline, I'll come to you next. We hear from, some of the insight work that Dennis shared there, and we know that, the support that learning providers give to apprentices is really, really crucial in those kind of early stages. So can you maybe talk to us a wee bit about the support that you would provide to apprentices from that kind of initial assessment, recruitment stage, and then right through at the learner journey?
Yeah, no problem. Alice, just a quick note to say congratulations, well done at winning the award last week. That's fantastic, and we're all delighted for you at Forth Valley College. So Forth Valley College have a dedicated team of apprenticeship officers, so they're not assessors, they're not part of the academic team. They sit within our commercial and skills department. Each apprentice and employer has a dedicated appointed apprenticeship officer that they meet at the very start of their journey, and they see them right through until the very end when they get that certificate. So at pre-recruitment stage, we have a team of assessors and apprenticeship officers who work really closely with both the employer and the individual just to make sure the apprenticeship is the right pathway. We go out into the workplace and we look at the scope of work. We make sure that we have a look at the job profiles, what the learning journey will look like, and what would be expected from them both in the workplace and at college if they're coming to college. We do an initial assessment stage, so we look at the apprentices' existing skills, their experience, any support needs they may have, and then we tailor a learning plan so that the program that they're going on is appropriate from them for day one. And it also ensures that we do a levelling tool, so we make sure that they're on the right level of apprenticeship. Once they begin their journey, they get their induction, get all their Skills Development Scotland paperwork done, get them enrolled, and then they see the apprenticeship officer every 12 weeks for their progress review. Our apprenticeship officers meet with our academic team once a month, so we get an update on the students' progress. And then we talk about that at the progress reviews with both the employer and with the apprentice. And then we provide ongoing support as well around meta skills, well-being, career development. So some apprentices maybe want to do a first aid at work, or they'll want to do a health and safety qualification as well as doing their apprenticeship. So we support them in any additional enhanced learning that they can do while they're going through that journey. But ultimately, our role as a provider is to act as the partner to both the apprentice and the employer, ensure that the learning is relevant, that the support is consistent, and the apprentice can successfully progress into a skilled and confident employee.
Yeah, thanks, Caroline. Yeah, it's a really detailed walkthrough of that support offer and the efforts you go to try and support individuals, get a bespoke learning journey for them. So we'll maybe touch on gender segregation then as a topic. So obviously, we've heard from Alice, that, entering a sector that's probably historically quite male dominated. So can you maybe talk to us again from a learning provider's perspective? What sort of support would be there for apprentices in that space?
Lots, and this is part of my daily job, is always looking at this. So it's really great when someone like Alice has won an award that's in a historically male dominated sector. But we start, all our marketing materials were very focused around making sure that that we've got females in engineering or females in construction. And actually role models like Alice, and we've got another apprentice who's just won an award in a painting and decorating UK competition. And we just promoted through that continuously through social media. I was interested at some of the data that was just on those previous slides, and that's very reflective of what's going on in the college from our perspective. So once we talk to the employers, even at pre-recruitment stage, we're talking to them about promoting opportunities in ways that's inclusive and accessible. There's lots of stuff on Skills Development Scotland website that we signpost employers to as well. You know, we're constantly challenging some of the traditional perceptions about who these careers are for. So we're continuously working, we're always evolving in how we can promote that better. We are working with a company at the moment at developing a new video for employers. So we're hoping that'll be launched in August. And that's just about, you know, adapting the workplace and making sure that, you know, there's an opportunity for all, basically. But ultimately, I think addressing gender segregation requires a partnership between all of us, between the providers, the employers, and the wider sector and industry, where we're actively encouraging diversity, supporting individuals in new environments, and just trying to help create workplaces where everyone can succeed.
Yeah. And Alice, again, I'll maybe come back to you on that. We've heard a lot of detail from Caroline there. So how have you found that? How have you found the support, you know, for yourself entering that industry, both from your learning provider, the college, and then also from your employer?
I'd say the support has been incredible throughout my apprenticeship from all points of view. Definitely, when I came to the college, you were never kind of isolated, or you never felt a sense of loneliness that you were the only woman in the room. You know, you were always made to feel included. And then it was the same when I went out to district with a provider. I was treated like every other apprentice that walked through the door. And yeah, I I have seen it before and I've experienced the gap before, but it wasn't during my apprenticeship at all. So.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And then Amy, I'll come to yourself on that sort of same point. I mean, from your perspective as an employer, you know, how have you seen that sort of gender imbalance being addressed over the years, you know, and do you think that's something that you feel is improving? And then have you any specific initiatives that, you know, support young women entering these trades?
Yep, I'm probably going to echo a lot of what Caroline has said. As an employer, we've definitely seen progress. Equally, there's still a lot of work to do to kind of address the gender imbalance that we see in our engineering and perhaps more technical roles. The last several years have shown a real shift, which is great. And we're definitely being far more deliberate about encouraging girls and women into the industry and really trying to break down some of the stereotypes that traditionally surround our trade roles or those more engineering roles that we've got. And we are starting to see that pay off. For example, we're seeing more female representation coming through our programmes, and in some of our newer disciplines like data and cyber, we're achieving close to a 50-50 gender balance, which it kind of shows you when that approach is intentional that it does pay off. A big part of the changes come from focusing on early engagement, getting out into the schools, working with community partners and STEM organisations to show young people, particularly young females and young girls, that what careers in our sector actually look like. When we attend any careers events, we're making sure we've got female apprentices there, engineers, and female leaders from right across the organisation as well, and really make sure that they're visible at these events, because that representation really matters for us. It helps us challenge perceptions at that early stage, and it makes the pathway feel more accessible for these young people. And we also support targeted outreach programmes and pre-employment routes that are designed specifically to encourage women into technical pathways. And it's one thing getting us to join us, it's then another that they remain with us. And we really want to make sure that that environment is supportive, and that's with mentoring, pastoral support and strong internal networks. We've got a Connected Women network, but we've also got an allies to that network as well. So it's all about helping female trainees, apprentices, colleagues feel confident, connected and really included across the organisation. And the improvements that we're seeing are the result of that consistent and intentional action that we're taking. And we're very much so committed to continuing that journey that we're on at the moment.
Yeah, and I think we see that obviously the work that we do within the National Training Programmes Directorate at SDS. So we're working with 200 learning providers up and down the country, and whilst you know like these kind of issues around gender imbalance, they're kind of long standing, they're societal issues. They're not going to change quickly or overnight, and we recognise that. So I think everything you've said there, it speaks to that. It's just the importance of those partnerships, targeted support, and intentional activity. So it's more, that's what we're really keen to try and understand and find out, share good practice across the network, and the stats will take care of themselves at some point in the future. But at the minute, it's just about, as you say, that, really proactive support and trying to put that in place. So that's really encouraging to hear that. Thank you. Um, Amy, I'll just maybe stick with yourself and we'll touch now maybe on like employer and provider partnership links and so on. And we heard earlier from Alice, she's the really positive journey through her apprenticeship program and then could see a sort of career path beyond that. So maybe you talk to us a little bit from your point of view at Scottish Power Energy Networks about how you use apprenticeships as a means to upskill and reskill staff. And then what's your approach to talent development? How do you use the MA program to invest and build that workforce of the future?
Yep. So my role within the organisation is workforce programme leader. So I oversee the review of our existing training programmes and apprenticeships, but equally oversee the development and the delivery of programmes such as our modern apprenticeships and how they then align with our wider workforce strategy. And apprenticeships play a vital role in supporting both the current and the future capability needs of the organisation. As an industry, we're undergoing rapid change, and we've got new technologies that are changing the way that we work. All as we move towards that transition towards net zero, and with that, the skills that we need are shifting too. So, apprenticeships give us that structured and flexible way to respond to that. And my role is all about working with leaders across the business to identify skills gaps that we've got today, but equally where the capability requirements will be in the years ahead. So from there, we then design apprenticeship pathways. Some of our existing programmes will meet that criteria, but all of that together supports that long-term growth and not just kind of immediate vacancies and filling the roles that we need to. And for me, ultimately, the modern apprenticeship programme is one of our most important tools for building a sustainable and skilled workforce for the future. It gives us the opportunity to invest in people, give them development opportunities, and really build a strong talent pipeline for critical roles. But we are able to grow our own talent through that kind of avenue, which is it's critical for us. We've got roles that can be quite specialist, and it's difficult to recruit from the market. So we're able to, as I say, grow our own talent and fill those roles, which is key for us really.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. And I suppose I recognise that within the education landscape, sometimes it's a slow burn to get qualifications updated and so on. So it's interesting and I guess encouraging to hear you talk about MEs as being quite a flexible option, and it meets your needs and it suits your needs and it's adaptable. That's really encouraging to hear that too. Thank you. Well, maybe just again, Amy, if you could maybe just then touch on or expand on like your relationship with Caroline and as a learning provider, so how does that work between yourselves and the college? How are those dynamics between you? What role does the college play in terms of supporting you? How do they support you with recruitment and so on?
A huge role. So our relationship with Forth Valley College and all of our other colleges and university partners is really collaborative. We've got a long-standing relationship with Forth Valley in particular. For me, that partnership is the reason our apprenticeship works so well. The apprenticeships only succeed when all of these key stakeholders work together. And as I say, the college is a real key part of that system for us. We work really closely. We're aligned on everything from curriculum design to day-to-day learner support. And that ongoing communication means that we can respond quickly to any challenges and make sure that the delivery reflects the real industry needs. But most importantly, at the core of that we ensure that the apprentices have the support that they require to succeed. The college also play a big role in widening participation and making apprenticeships accessible to a broad range of learners, and that's something that we care really deeply about. Really making sure that young people, regardless of their backgrounds, where they live, what their circumstances may be, that they see apprenticeships as a real and achievable pathway for them. It's relatable to them. We work together on outreach and recruitment, so we kind of lead on the workforce planning, but the college really supports us by promoting the programme, connecting with schools, and helping young people understand the different pathways into our sector. And I've kind of already touched on it, but that early engagement is so, so important. It gives learners a clear picture of what careers look like. It helps ensure that the programme continues to reflect those real workforce needs as well. And just, from an employer perspective, that a wider alignment across the system, so not just the colleges, employers, schools, government is really vital. So strong educational partners like our college are essential if we want apprenticeships to remain high quality, accessible, and actually easy for employers of all sizes to navigate. So although we kind of talk about colleges and universities being a provider, for us, they're very much a strategic partner. And when we continue to stay aligned and communicate well, we create the environment that apprentices need to thrive, and that we equally need to build the skills pipeline that our sector so heavily relies on.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll maybe just bring in a question from the chat. Actually, you sort of touched on it a little bit there, I think, Amy. I'll field this one to you first, Caroline, with a question from Ewan Mackenzie, who says, I'm wanting to target care experienced people for an MA I hope to advertise. Is there any particular support that would be provided out with my organisation if we were to recruit someone from that background? So, Caroline, I'll come to you first. Maybe you could talk a little bit around, these are the kind of key equality groups we talk about in SDS. So it's trying to support care experienced people, disabled people, BME, and then addressing the whole gender imbalance thing. That's probably our kind of four things. And then, as Denis mentioned, we focus on SIMD and we look at deprivation and so on. So maybe just on that care experience point in particular, maybe just touch on like what kind of support's available from a college point of view.
So we've got really good partnerships with our 18 high schools. We've got a system in place where it's flagged before they even come to college if they're care experienced or not, so we can tell what support's required. So that's managed by our student services team. So we've got a team of learner advisors, safeguarders who will support that young person as soon as they're coming on to college. So if that's flagged earlier on and we know they're attending, we bring them in before they start college, we give them tours, we put support in place. They'll have an appointed learner advisor for the whole duration of their programme. That's not an apprenticeship officer, but the apprenticeship officer and the advisor will work together. They'll meet regularly, they'll make sure they're well supported on their programme, but also would bring the employer into that as well, so that everyone's on, the same level and everyone knows what's happening, and putting that support in place. What I would say from an employer's point of view is just come and get in touch with us. If it is someone that is care experienced and we can flag it, then we'll put all the support in place. But it begins before the programme starts. We want to introduce them to the college. It's a new environment. They'll meet with the learner advisors every few weeks at the start just to get them settled in. And we've an open door policy with our advisors, so they're there from 9:15 to 5:15 every day. Our safeguarders are on at weekends and stuff as well. So we've got loads of support within the college system.
Yeah, thank you. Amy, from your point of view, just employment, you touched on that, around everybody as an individual, you're trying to support all, people from all kinds of backgrounds. Is there anything else you would add from an employer perspective?
Yeah, funnily enough, I've actually just left training with Who Cares Scotland, and it was all about care experienced individuals and how we can support them. And I think we've got a trainee population of over 500 trainees, and that's set to go through 700 this year. And with that, naturally, you have people from different backgrounds who have different support needs. And as an organisation, we've got fantastic teams there that right from that applying online to getting adjustments at the assessment centre stage, all the way through whatever programme or apprenticeship they may join. There's loads of support that we can put in place for people, and we do put in place for them at the moment.
Yeah, that's great. And for everyone's benefit, I put a link in the chat to the equality guides that are available on the SDS websites. There's a lot of information there. And again, we work in partnership with people like Who Cares Scotland and other organisations. So there's good information there as well. You can follow that link. So that's great. Thank you. So Alice, I'll maybe bring you back in. I think that the other thing we're kind of need to talk about here about, we touched on it earlier, is just around sort of career progression, so again, think back to that point when you were, kind of nearing the end of your MA. What were those conversations with your employer in the college around those kind of future plans, career ambitions? Did you feel it was a sort of an obvious career path mapped out for you?
Yeah, I definitely felt like there was an obvious career path kind of into the fitting team. And then just recently I discussed with them, they've asked me where I would like to, what route I would like to go down, whether it be like a technical crafts person or whether it be going more into the engineering department, and they're completely open, and there's people within my trade that are now doing HNCs and things like that. So there's a constant kind of encouragement to kind of improve yourself.
Yeah, that's great. And it ties back to what Amy was saying just around that, how Scottish Power Energy Networks are just looking at that future workforce and ensuring that you're developing and retaining the talent they've already got. And that's great to hear that you're part of that. That's fantastic. I'll maybe come on to another subject now, which would be meta skills. So, that's been one of the big developments in modern apprenticeships over the last 8 years or so. It's been the introduction of what we call meta skills, and we describe them as innate human skills that we all have. So things like creativity, critical thinking, curiosity, initiative, integrity, collaboration, etc. So, and I guess it's interesting as we all move into the world of artificial intelligence, then those human skills are the things that we think will become really, really critical in the future. So, reflecting back, Alice, do you think are those skills that you developed, were you aware that you were developing those skills whilst you were on your apprenticeship over and above those vocational craft skills that you were developing?
I think some of them you are aware that you have, like definitely initiative. A lot of the apprenticeship that I did was kind of self-driven. You kind of had to ask to be put on jobs. The more that you put yourself out there, the more that you were kind of recognized for that. But then at the same time, if you weren't someone that could put yourself out there, you were kind of aided in a sense. But then I'd say my confidence has completely improved without me not even realizing it until recently, people pointing it out about where I was at the beginning of my apprenticeship compared to where I am now. I mean, I could have never have been on this call 3 years ago, and I am today. So just having that confidence to speak about what I've done and where I've come from is, yeah, a great
Yes.
help.
Fantastic. And we did a similar webinar like this time last year, and we had another apprentice, Hannah, on, and she said exactly the same thing. Interestingly, that confidence was the thing that really developed and grew over
Yeah,
that time. So yeah.
Yeah, I think with having to go out and deal with customers and speak to people, and I think a lot of that is lost through technology, but I think it should be something that is definitely encouraged, is just to get out there and to speak to as many people as you can, and to constantly keep asking questions and just absorb as much knowledge as you can from the people who have been there before.
Yeah. And Caroline, from your point of view, I mean, how important do you see, the future in developing a meta skills over and above like vocational training and competence in the years ahead?
We're doing lots of work at the moment, Michael, around meta skills. So they're becoming increasingly important. So technical and vocational competence will always be essential. However, the workplace is evolving rapidly. Employers are placing greater value on skills like adaptability, communication, resilience. So these skills help individuals respond to change. The world's a crazy place at the moment, so we're constantly it's constant change. It's helping them work effectively in teams, but it's hugely important for the college to start embedding that from the very start of the apprenticeship. So we have just rolled out a new prototype. It's based on the meta skills assessment that Skills Development Scotland have done. We've put it into a Microsoft Forms format with videos in it. And it's an assessment tool that we'll do with every apprentice from August onwards, and they can use that over the 4 years to see how they've grown, like in confidence, in adaptability, in resilience. So we're just rolling that out just now at the college, but it's hugely important and something that the college is really focused on.
Yeah. Yeah, and Amy, from your point of view again as an employer, I mean, I guess we think like we hope that the ME program is not just turning out people that are, competent in their vocational area, but it's well-rounded individuals, and then that supports you in the workplace. So how do you see that journey? How have you seen meta skills developing over the years?
Yeah, I agree again with everything that Caroline's saying. We've definitely noticed a shift. And again, that technical ability is essential in many of our roles. But we have seen the human skills become increasingly important. But again, as I've touched on, the pace of transformation in our industry, it means that roles are also evolving quite quickly. But I think that's why the MA is so valuable, because it provides far more than just technical, not just technical training, but it gives individuals the chance to grow the likes of their confidence, build those relationships, working in teams. And as you can hear from Alice, one of the most rewarding parts of the programme for us and for myself is watching those apprentices develop as people, and seeing them grow in maturity and self-awareness and professionalism within some of these environments. So for us, developing those well-rounded employees, it's important, but it's also essential for building a resilient and an adaptable workforce as the future and AI and all these types of things continue to evolve. They're well equipped for it.
Yeah, yeah. And maybe just come back to a question that's in the chat. We maybe got a few minutes left now. So again, it's a Kiva Walsh. It's a similar question that was posed to Denis earlier on. So this is for you, Caroline. So what ways do you support apprentices' well-being and safeguarding? And do you feel this is something that's changed over time?
Yeah, we've definitely seen a shift since COVID. So we've got a lot more mental health, students coming to us about mental health, housing, finances. So within the college, we're very, very lucky. We've got a student services team. They're also a safeguarding team. So there's huge support in the college. We've got a free counselling service that any student can access. All our curriculum managers are safeguard trained. We've got a system in place called Triple S. So if anything's flagged, it goes through this Triple S system, but they're made a priority from senior management downwards. So it's flagged to the most important people to get someone in place straight away for this learner if something does come up. So there's huge support within the college in terms of safeguarding and well-being.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for that. Yeah, and I think we know from our experience that's pretty consistent across all learning providers now. We recognise there is that increase in mental health issues, and that there's huge amounts of support available. So yeah, that's really encouraging. Thanks for answering that. So only got a couple of minutes to go. So Alice, the last word has to go to you. Obviously, you're the star of the show this afternoon. You've given us a really fantastic insight into your journey. Already. I really appreciate that. I'm sure everyone's enjoyed hearing your story and hearing that insight. But if you could maybe sum up your apprenticeship experience in a few words, and more importantly, what advice would you give to any young person that's maybe thinking about an apprenticeship as a potential career path beyond school?
I've always struggled with a one-word question because
I said a few words, remember?
There isn't one word that I could use to describe my apprenticeship, because it's just been an absolute fantastic journey from beginning to end. I had a few ups and downs with breaking ankles and things like that, but the support that I got through from beginning to end has been incredible. But yeah, I just say to, put yourself out there and definitely go for it, and just to say yes to every opportunity that you get given, because I've always been told you'll only regret things that you don't go for. So yeah, you're better just to go for it.
Okay. Fabulous wise words of wisdom there. That's great. So yeah, listen, that's been great. Thank you so much. I would just like to say a thanks to Leah and David for signing the session for us this afternoon. Much appreciated. Thanks to Denis for the presentation earlier on and the insight there. Again, the links in the chat, you can see all that Apprentice Voice information on the website. Thanks to Amy and Caroline for all your contributions, really, really interesting. And a special thanks to yourself, Alice, for coming along and sharing your story and your journey. There's a phrase that our chief exec, Damien, always uses. He talks about soup for the soul, and these sessions always feel like that. It's just so encouraging and heartwarming to hear that the modern apprenticeship programme has been really positive for you. It's been a great journey. It's led you into a great employment opportunity at SPN. So that's fantastic. It's really heartwarming for us all to hear. So yeah, listen, thanks very much everyone for your contributions this afternoon. And hope to see you all soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.